I just got uninvited to Thanksgiving this year because of politics. That is wild. I guess I need a new family, which sucks because I really liked the one I had.
This is my last political post, okay? I'm gonna lay it to rest. Let me just tell you guys, I'm not crying happy tears. I'm not gonna be apologetic for being excited, because if it was the other way around, all of the Kamala supporters would celebrate. I want to say that first. I'm very relieved because I voted what I believe in, and I felt heavy on my heart that it's the right thing. So knowing that it was the decision the American people made, I'm relieved and I'm very happy. Very, very happy, okay? It's the very first day of finding out the election results. All of us are happy. I'm very happy, but I'm not going to continue to post about it, but I'm also not going to be sorry about it. And I always talked about how my family, sorry, I don't want to make this more than once. I always talked about how my family had different beliefs, my grandma and my mom and my sister, and how we always got along. And I wore my grandma's sweater to go vote, and I'm so sorry. I'm trying not to cry, okay? But my heart's broken.
Try not to cry.
Yeah, try it. My grandma just sent me a very sad text. It broke my heart. And my mom has yet to text me back today. My point of making this video is to say that I am very happy, and I expressed how happy I was. And I'm not gonna be sorry for that. I'm completely heartbroken that my family is taking it how they are. I never did this to them when Biden won. Never. But I am done with political posts. From here on out, it's back to normal. If you don't like me because of who I voted for and you have to unfollow, go ahead. My own family unsubscribed from my life, so you can too. I promise it doesn't get worse than that.
So while some Democrats have been waking up to the fact that they live in an echo chamber and seeking to break out of their blue bubbles in light of Trump's shocking sweep of the nation's election, others are taking a different approach and blocking friends and family or other loved ones who punched the ballot for him. It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it's going to play out for them. First, I'm Hannah Cox with Base Politics. Welcome to my channel where I bring you my politically homeless takes on politics and culture. Before we dive in today, make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and of course, ring that notification bell so you never miss one of my episodes. So we have a little over 2 weeks until the Thanksgiving holiday is upon us, but it seems there may be a whole lot of Americans with no one to break bread with. It is pretty funny that they schedule the election right before the major holidays, the time where most people have to see their extended families in the first place. I don't know whoever was in charge of that back in the day, but you know that they like drama. You know they did. They were like, let's just spice it up a little bit. Now, my family Thanksgiving is sadly canceled for another reason this year. That reason being my parents got tickets to the Iron Bowl, Roll Tide, and they were like, we'll be in Tuscaloosa, have fun watching the game on TV. I'm not bitter. So I will be spending my first Thanksgiving holiday with my husband's family, which I am actually very, very excited about. But I just have to say how crazy it is to me to consume this kind of media. When I hear people cutting off their friends, but especially like their family over stuff like this. I mean, there's been a general trend to cut off your parents and your family as of late, period, even outside of politics, that I just think is crazy. I'm not saying there's never cause for doing that. Like, of course, there are some people who are abusive. There are extreme examples where, like, yes, I think most people would say you have to just cut that person off and not really have them in your life anymore. But like, those are outliers. Those are extremes. That is not the norm. Most people do not have these monsters in their families that just need to have absolutely no contact with anybody. And I have such a hard time wrapping my mind around that. I think we are losing community. We have an isolation crisis that's growing. And in large part, that is because I think this generation, my generation on down in particular, has lost the art of learning to get along with people, who are flawed, who think differently than you, who say things you don't like. Like, families go through tough stuff. I saw my own extended family. Like, we have been through ups and downs. We've had some family traumas. We have some people in our family who are difficult to love. Absolutely. I think most families do. But the point of family in particular is that you love people unconditionally. You respect the fact that you are family, you share blood, you share history, and that if you don't stand for each other, the rest of the world is not going to back you like a family would. Like, people have got to relearn how to socially function with real flawed people, because that's who is going to be in your family, and that's who you are too. For the record, I don't love my family because they're perfect. I don't love them because they think just like me or vote just like me, or even because they always value the same things as me. There are certainly people in my life that are not my blood who I probably have more in common with, who think more in lines of how I do, who even apply their values in a more similar method to how I do. But the audacity to come in and basically say that I am superior to all of you, all the ways that I act are correct, all the ways that I think are above that of normal humans, and if you are not rising to my litmus test, then you are scum, you are a bad person, you don't have good values. Like, come on. Like, just the lack of self-awareness to truly believe that, to truly look at the world and think that, tells me you're probably not as good of a person as you think you are, because most people who lack self-awareness and who see themselves in that way suck. But that's the narrative a lot of people are grabbing onto, on the left in particular. They're saying Trump is a racist, he's bigoted, he's sexist, he's a rapist. So if you voted for him, then you are too, or at the very least, you are unbothered by these things.
This video is for anyone who doesn't understand why someone in their life might feel uncomfortable or want to distance themselves or not want to be in your life anymore because of your difference in political views. I just want to give you this example. Imagine you go to a friend of yours and you say to them, this person that I used to be friends with really hurt me, really disrespected me. And your friend agrees with you and they're like, yeah, that was really fucked up. Like, I totally disagree with what they did to you. Like, that's not cool. That's not fair. And then you find your friend liking that person's photo or hanging out with that person. Your friend might not agree with what they did to you. They might recognize that it's fucked up, but it's not a deal breaker. They see the damage that this person has done to you and is continuing to do to you, but it doesn't matter. They're still supporting them because maybe they have a lot of money, or they're really cool, or they have the same hobbies as them. Those things are more important to them than you as their friend. Do you see what I'm saying? It's one thing to disagree with someone on policy, but when it comes to human rights, basic human rights, that's a whole nother story. You might not be racist, but if the politician that you're supporting is, it's not a deal breaker for you. You might not be homophobic, but if the politician you're supporting is, it's not a deal breaker for you. You might not hate women, but if the politician you're supporting does, it's not a deal breaker for you. The people in your life want to feel loved by you, respected by you, safe around you. And if you're supporting someone who makes them feel the opposite, that's going to make them feel that way about you.
Where to begin? Number one, this mentality is childish. I've had friends, literal grown women, who act like this, and I've actually had to distance myself from them because of their immaturity. People who are like, well, this person did something I didn't like, so now we have to be in a war against them. And if you don't take my side, then you don't respect me and you don't care about me. And often it's over the most tedious and ridiculous things. And it's actually just the person saying this doesn't have the ability to regulate their emotions or to solve conflict. And so they want to pitch a full fit as an adult and get other grown adults to join them in it. I promise you, if you're an adult who thinks like this in terms of elections or any other scenarios, you're probably the toxic one. Secondarily, a lot of people simply do not believe these things that she is saying about Trump to be true. The left has brought this on themselves. They are the boy who cried wolf. And ironically, they have been one of the chief spreaders of actual disinformation over the past couple of years. And then they've backed that up with censorship efforts and bogus prosecutions of Trump. And none of that has helped any of this, right? They really have become the boy who cried wolf. People don't believe them anymore. I have so many problems with censorship, but even if you have no ethical issues, no constitutional issues, no just actual human rights issues with it, ironically enough, you at the very least should understand that when you are on the side of censorship, you by nature are incurring a sense of disbelief in what you say. Because losers rely on censorship. People who can't debate rely on censorship. People who don't actually have the truth on their side rely on censorship. So when you have become the party that is known for that, people don't trust anything you have to say, and you don't deserve it. You don't deserve that trust. When it comes to Trump, he has a lot of problems. Like I've said, I'm a Trump hater. I don't like Trump. And yet the amount of time I have to spend in my life coming out and pushing back on BS that's being spread about him on the left is insane. They constantly are exaggerating, being hyperbolic, making things up about him out of thin air. They're doing things like pushing prosecutions that don't have any weight to them whatsoever. And I would say there was one prosecution of Trump that I thought should have occurred, which is when he tried to rig the election in 2020 here in my state of Georgia. I know people who work in our Secretary of State's office. He absolutely did call them, harass them, pressure them to find votes for him. He was the only one that actually tried to rig the 2020 election. So that prosecution was just, but what did they do? They overcharged him. They went for stupid RICO charges. They tried to charge everybody around him. It became a clown car show. And the other prosecutions in states like New York were even worse. So nobody cares that he's a convicted felon. Nobody cares that you claim he has all of these litany of things he's done wrong and the courts have found him guilty, because they don't believe in the validity of the prosecutions in the first place. Furthermore, most people, most Americans, are not terminally online. They don't have time to sit here and scroll social media endlessly or obsess over Donald Trump like the predominant base of the Democrats right now, which is white women with too many degrees and easy work from home jobs. No, rank and file Americans wanted economic relief. They said that for years and years and years. The Democrats ignored them, they gaslit them, and they thought they could play in their face. And those people showed up to vote and they had two options, and they voted for the one that they thought would get them some economic relief. That does not make them evil. That does not make them selfish. I've seen a lot of people being like, oh, well, you voted for cheaper eggs. Hope it was worth it. Hope you get your cheaper groceries. Newsflash, if you're going around saying that, you are so privileged and obtuse. I can't even begin to explain to you how stupid you sound. This is why you lose, because your empathy is lacking. I thought Democrats were like the feel-good party, the party that had so much empathy and cared about people, but you don't care when they're telling you they can't afford to live. You can't sit here and say you care about human rights, you care about human dignity, and then laugh in their face when they are telling you that they are suffering. So even if that hasn't impacted you, you should be able to listen to them expressing that and have empathy for that and recognize that that is something you have to care about if you expect people to care about the litany of other issues that are important to you. Only very, very rich countries who have become rich thanks to capitalism, I might add, have time to care about all of the things that come after economic stability. This is basic Maslow's hierarchy. I guess we can add this to the list of things government schools are not teaching people anymore, so I'll flash it on screen. But as you can see, people have to have their physiological needs met first. That includes breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep. Those are things a lot of people have not been able to afford comfortably over the past 4 years. Next comes safety and security, health, employment, property, family, and social ability. That's another thing that many people feel has been attacked. They don't feel like they have the ability to have class mobilization. They don't feel like they are secure in their property rights. They don't feel secure in their employment. They don't trust the BS health system the government has rigged for them. Next, you have love and belonging, friendship, family, intimacy, a sense of connection. We know our society is losing those things. You have to get all the way to the very tip of the pyramid where you get into self-esteem and self-actualization for people to start caring about your identity or your pronouns. Completely detached from reality. And lastly, I will add that a lot of people on the right feel the same way about you guys. They really do believe that Democrats and the Democrat Party are evil, immoral, and that they are pushing an agenda that harms people. A lot of people on the right, this is not me, but a lot of people on the right truly believe abortion from the moment of conception is murder. And that's the dominant thing that Democrats were running on. Furthermore, a lot of them truly believe that transing kids is child abuse, which I have to say, if you guys don't stop trying to freaking gaslight me on this, I'm going to pitch a fit. I am so sick of seeing Democrats being like, well, that's not really something Kamala cared about. It's not something the Democrats cared about. That's just right-wing attacks. They've just created a whole culture war and attacked us over this, and it's not even happening, and we don't even do those things. We don't even care about these things. Shut up. The internet lives forever. I don't know if you guys just don't know how this works, but yes, you have harped and harped and harped on this. Yes, you have refused to come to the table to discuss this. Yes, you have lied about what is going on around these issues in the schools, in the healthcare system, in the legal system. I'm fed up with it. And I am a pro-trans person. I actually find this to be a substantially gray area because I am not comfortable with the government ever being involved in healthcare. But that being said, people have valid concerns about little kids whose brains haven't fully formed being given life-altering pills that have consequences they have to live with the rest of their lives and can never redo, even though many of them do change their minds down the road. That is a problem that has to be addressed. We don't let kids make any other major medical decisions before they're age 18 in this country for good reason. You cannot just write off those concerns of people, particularly of parents. The right also believes that socialism is evil, and it is. I agree with them. Socialism is an evil, wicked, destructive philosophy. It's a philosophy of greed. It's a philosophy of death. It has killed more people than any other ideology known to man. I think saying you're a socialist, saying you're a progressive, saying you're a Marxist, any of those things should be treated with the same disgust as somebody coming out and saying they're a Nazi. It is a deadly ideology that hurts people. And it is inexcusable how much the left has allowed those people to come in and co-opt their party, how they have refused to push them out, refused to shout them down. And people on the right are justified when they see that as being abhorrent. I'll add to the fact that many people on the right truly believe Kamala's criminal justice record, and particularly her record on the death penalty, was awful and racist and immoral, which the left would have agreed with in 2020. It's one of the reasons she had no shot in hell of getting the primary nomination at that point when people were actually focusing on this. I mean, this witch put countless of innocent people in jail for nonviolent offenses. She worked to execute a man, even though there was evidence of his innocence. So like, this can go both ways. I can sit here and go all day. In reality, most Americans are decent people who want to work, who want to take care of their families, who want to live in a just society. And it is not all their fault that they had piss poor candidates to pick from. It's a little bit their fault. They need to be doing a lot more to overturn the two-party system, participate in primaries, hold their parties actually accountable when they do things like rig their primaries. So they are a little bit at fault, but largely the system has been rigged against them for a very long time. Americans had to pick between a turd sandwich and a roach burger this election. I cannot tell you how silly you look to independents when you are coming in and vilifying people who picked one or the other. It is fair to want to be close with like-minded people. That's just human nature. But there is a difference in who you have close relationships with and in cutting people off entirely. I'm not saying you have to be BFF with your family members or even friendships that you have where people have radically different ideas about politics. I understand why that could be difficult on a day-to-day basis, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about people who are cutting people off entirely, who can't even sit down for a meal with people that they were formerly connected to over this one issue. And that's insane. I also just think it's really, really crazy to hear people saying that they can't be friends or continue relationships with family who voted for Trump because it shows their values. I think if those people actually bothered to learn about the world and people who think differently than them, if they learned to have insight into people who consume different news than they did, they would find out that probably they're not that far apart on values. They might be far apart on prioritizing those values. They might have different ways that they think they should apply those values. But I really do not think when we talk about values politically that most people are just polar opposites on this. I think most people believe in civil liberties. I think most people believe in the value of work. I think most people just want the government to leave them alone so that they can do the right things and advance. The reason that people on the left are so apt to think this, though, is because the left has coddled them. They've told them, you don't have to defend your views. You don't have to debate people who don't believe in your right to exist. I mean, this really ridiculous, over the top kind of excuses for why they've been told they shouldn't have to engage and instead can rely on censorship and the government coming in and shutting down disinformation. But the end result is these people are like little kids that are just learning the English language, and the conversations are just going right over their heads because they haven't been given the vocabulary they need to actually meaningfully engage in politics.
No, because if you are willing to cut off family, friends, anybody in your own personal life whose views don't perfectly align with yours, you're the problem right now. You're the problem right now, and I guarantee that kind of behavior will cause more of a divide in your own life than this election ever will. Okay? Your true colors are showing. I opened up Facebook this morning to so many posts saying, if you voted for this person, I don't care who you are, go ahead and unfriend me. I'm gonna let the trash take itself out. Okay, girl. I do not care who you voted for, but I do care how you're treating people who voted differently than you. And that's what it really boils down to. I have close friends in my life who I know voted differently than me. And I'm not unfriending anybody because of the way they voted. But I will be unfriending anybody who is like openly bashing and blocking their own grandma on the Facebook comments. Because that is telling me all I need to know about you as a person.
I totally agree with her. I like this tweet that said, if a movement inspires you to cut off your family that you otherwise love, enjoy, and are supported by, even if they do so in their own imperfect way, you're in a cult. I've said for some time, I think that MAGA has signs of being a cult, but I could do the same for the extreme left. It isn't normal behavior, and this is only going to drive people who participate in it further into their echo chamber and make them even more detached from the other side. When in reality, what people need to be doing is working to puncture their bubbles, to have conversations, to engage with people, especially people who disagree with them. You might find that you change your mind on a number of things. You might find you change their mind on a couple of things, and you might find that you have a lot more in common than you would have assumed in the first place. All these kinds of people do, though, is create a culture of silence where people are still going to go ahead and do what they want. They're just not going to be open with you about it. They're not going to discuss it with you. And so you are going to be shook and shocked when things continue to not go your way because you're not bothering to actually learn about the world around you. You're not actually engaging in politics. You're just pitching fits.
This is not my normal fashion content at all, but I do not talk politics with my friends because I know majority of my friends, I'm 24 years old, are voting blue. And if I were to admit that I was voting for Trump, I knew that there would be a few of my friends that would no longer want to be my friend anymore, or maybe joke about not being my friend anymore because I voted for Trump. If you're not going to be somebody's friend over their political views, I don't really know what to say. It says a lot about you. And I went 5 years without knowing one of my friends was also voting Republican. And I just think that's crazy. We went so long, best friends, without knowing our political views because we were both scared that we would lose each other as a friend over our political views.
These people are behaving like petulant, intolerant children. They are incapable of debating their views, and they've been told that they don't have to. I'm not going to defend my rights. I don't have to educate you. The Democrats became the anti-speech and pro-censorship party, and it shows in their base. They became the party that coddled emotionally immature and intellectually shallow adults who feel smart because they often went and got a lot of degrees, but they're too arrogant to realize when they're completely uninformed and incapable of persuasion.
Y'all, it's about to get wild in this app. These are the comments that are flooding Alex Earl's 2 most recent videos. And I have a feeling if I were to scroll through much more of my For You, I would most definitely encounter a ton of these comments. And I've seen a ton of people talking about this. It's like, you know, there's a very noticeable hole for all of the folks for reasons that we know who did not post anything about this week. And likely they'll all weather the storm like they have a million times before. But I also have a feeling we're about to see a lot on this, of activity, as it were, on this app. I mean, we're talking thousands of comments. And I definitely know that she's seeing them because she is replying to some, and like some of them have a huge amount of likes. And I just feel like it's about to get real messy in here.
It's wild to me when I see people on the left doing this because number one, conservatives have always had to live with the fact that the vast majority of media and entertainment they consume is made by people who hate them. So it's really, really funny now to see Democrat grassroots like having a meltdown because some Instagram or TikTok influencer they follow might not share their political views. Like, you're going to be in for a rough ride if that's what gets you going, guys. And furthermore, this is why people don't F with you in the first place. You've become the party of miserable scolds, of Karens, of zealots. You're not cool. Nobody wants to be around you. Even other leftists don't want to be around you because they're so afraid to just let their guard down because they might accidentally make a microaggression and get canceled or called racist. Like, you're insufferable. You're like the Dolores Umbridges of the political world. And the fact that so many of them are digging in and continuing to amplify this kind of behavior and even make it worse is absolutely mind-blowing. Like I said at the top of the episode, if you lack this much self-awareness, I feel positive you're not a good person. Now, one counterpoint I do want to address in this whole conversation that I do think is fair is I've seen many on the left saying, why do Republicans want to be friends with us, period? Because you see all these Republicans coming out, especially on social media, saying like, oh, you shouldn't cut people off for their political views. We should all just be able to get along. You should love everybody. I can't believe my family's canceling me. And like, while I largely agree, there is a subset of Republicans who have acted so egregiously over the past couple of years that like, I do understand why people might not want to be around you, but I think it has a lot more to do with you as a person and how you express your political views than it does how you voted. Somebody on Twitter said, not once have I seen a Republican brag about how they're cutting off their Democratic friends and family. And another person quote tweeted them and said, of course, Republicans don't cut their family off over politics. Like any bully, they need someone to bully. Those who drink tears stay thirsty and always need a fresh supply. Dominance is no fun without the distress of someone you love. And you hate to admit it, but this is true for some Republicans, the kind that run around being like, we're going to own the libs, or who like drink out of coffee cups that say liberal tears. Like, why would anybody want to be around you? But again, it's not because of how you voted. It's just because you're an asshole. I usually hate that little Thanksgiving game people make you do where everybody goes around the circle and says something they're thankful for. It just feels very contrived and inauthentic to me, and I don't like it most years. But I already have mine ready for the table this year, and it is that I am extremely thankful that I don't have any political nuts or extremists in my family on either end. All right, guys, I hope you liked this episode. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you've not already, and if you want even more content, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok.